It started like the world always ends, quiet, almost unimportant. In Avalon Park, on a breezy Tuesday afternoon, a streak of emerald light flared across the sky. Most people barely glanced up. Some thought it was a meteor. A few filmed it, hoping for clicks. No one ran. Why would they? Except one man. Officer Jace Monroe had seen all kinds of strange things in his 8 years of beat patrol, but this felt different. His cruiser had picked up a short, narrowband pulse just before the light faded, like a heartbeat transmitted through static. It hadn't matched anything in the registry. And when the emergency dispatch line buzzed, it wasn't a usual call. Possible flare event in Sector 12. Object may have landed. Proceed with caution. Caution, as it turns out, was not Monroe's strong suit. He reached the tree line 10 minutes later. Found burn marks in the grass, trees half-scorched, but no fire. And at the center of it all, standing barefoot like she'd been placed there on purpose, was a woman. Or something that appeared to be. She stood nearly 6 feet tall, skin like deep lavender spun from starlight, and hair that shimmered like flowing mercury. Her eyes met his calmly, without fear. In her palm was a sphere, glowing, pulsing gently, almost in rhythm with his own breath. "I don't have time to convince you," she said, voice lilting but clear. "But I am not your enemy. I'm here to stop what's coming." "And what exactly is coming?" Monroe asked, keeping his hand near his holster, not drawn, but aware. "The Harrow," she said simply. "A species that unroots worlds." "Right," he said slowly. "You've got about 20 seconds to explain why I shouldn't call this in." "You can," she replied. "But then I'll be silenced. And so will your world." There was a strange clarity in her words. Not a threat. A fact. Still, Monroe did what protocol demanded. He called it in. Described her as an unarmed trespasser in need of containment. Within minutes, 2 agents from the Avalon Emergency Response Team arrived in a black hover van, scanning her from a distance with handheld devices that buzzed uncertainly. The female agent stepped forward. "Name?" "I am called Nyla," the alien said. "Species?" "My people were known as Valari." Past tense. Monroe watched, uncertain. The agent looked unimpressed. "We're detaining you for questioning." "I understand," Nyla said, her hands raised, though the orb in her palm remained glowing. "But you're wasting time." They took her anyway. As they passed Monroe, she turned. "You saw it, didn't you?" "Saw what?" "The shimmer. In the grass. In the sky. You heard it." He didn't answer. But he had. That night, he couldn't sleep. The video footage was already trending as performance art, and city officials were eager to file it under hoax. But the feeling wouldn't leave him. The next morning, the lab assigned to test Nyla's blood reported a result that made no sense: her cells didn't decay. No aging. No mitotic degradation. In fact, they seemed to repair themselves faster under stress. Hours later, that lab went dark. Just, offline. All personnel relocated. Records sealed. Monroe went to the station, asked to see the footage. It was gone. He checked the log files. Rewritten. That night, his cruiser refused to start for exactly 47 minutes. Then roared to life without explanation. He tried calling the facility Nyla had been taken to. No answer. By dawn, Monroe had made his choice. He took the old access road west of Avalon. Past the service tunnels. Through the back gate of the atmospheric research outpost no longer listed on official maps. He hacked the biometric lock with a device he wasn't supposed to own, rewrote the entry logs with a line of code he hadn't used since his time in the Army's ShadowNet division. And there, in the last hallway before the facility's interior vaults, he found her. Standing. Alone. Unbound. Waiting. You came, she said softly. Where are the agents? They asked too many questions. The hero silenced them. He stared. You mean? No, she said. Not dead. Taken. She opened her hand. The sphere still pulsed. Take me somewhere they won't find me, she said. Somewhere the stars don't echo. He should have said no. He didn't. They left the facility behind. And the city never reported them missing. Because silence, like extinction, always starts quietly. They didn't speak much on the drive. Nyla sat in the passenger seat with both hands clasped over the glowing orb, her eyes scanning the treetops as if waiting for something to leap from above. Jace kept one hand on the wheel and the other near his stun baton, not because he didn't trust her, but because old habits were harder to drop than suspicion. He took the long way out of Avalon. Avoided drones. Killed the cruiser's tracker chip. 20 minutes out, they turned onto a gravel road swallowed by towering pine trees. This wasn't just off-grid, it was off-record. You sure he's still out here? Nyla asked. Jace nodded. My uncle? Yeah. You could drop a nuke and he wouldn't leave. Good, she said. We need someone who remembers how to listen. They arrived just before dawn. A slanted cabin with solar panels patched like band-aids across its roof, surrounded by antennae and wild grass. Smoke trickled from a crooked chimney. Stay behind me, Jace said as he stepped out. The door opened before they could knock. A thin man in a thermal vest stood in the frame, unshaven and half-squinting. I was wondering when you'd show up. Hey, Doc, Jace said. I brought a friend. His uncle's gaze moved to Nyla. He stiffened. She's not from this system. Neither was Sputnik, Jace said. The older man grunted. Well, don't just stand there. Come in before the AI satellite starts singing. Inside, the cabin was part lab, part bunker, and part retirement rebellion. Holographic maps blinked over makeshift tables. A decommissioned weather drone dangled from the ceiling, now used to dry herbs. The man pulled on a pair of gloves. Name's Owen. I used to track exoplanets before the brass decided we'd never leave Earth. Nyla inclined her head. I am Nyla. Formerly Valari. I'm here to stop the Harrow. Owen paused. You just say the Harrow. She nodded. Hell, he muttered, dragging over a rusted stool. Been 30 years since I've heard that name outside my own head. He activated an old map projection, black background, scattered constellations. Then he tapped one point. This star died 6 months ago. Not naturally. No radiation bloom. No heat wave. Just, gone. Nyla leaned forward. That's what they do. They don't kill planets. They erase them. Harvest biomass, drain resonance, and silence the rest. Jace blinked. Resonance? It's like a fingerprint, Owen explained. Every planet sings, in its own frequency. The Harrow tune in. And when they find harmony, they feed. Nyla placed the orb in the center of the map. It responded instantly, glowing in rhythmic pulses that aligned with the projection's grid. They're already close. I don't know how many. But I escaped through the last open gate before it collapsed. You're saying they're here? No, she said. I'm saying they're circling. Waiting for an anchor. Owen sat back. We'll need the signal tower. It's old, but it still talks to the upper net. If we can bounce a pulse off the lunar relay, maybe we can confirm proximity. Won't that expose us? Jace asked. Yeah, Owen said. But ignorance will kill us faster. They climbed the ridge behind the cabin, an old path paved in moss and solar dust. At the peak, a bent antenna stuck out like a bone from the earth. Owen worked the panel, muttering to himself. Nyla stood close to Jace, unusually quiet. "You okay?" he asked. She glanced at him. "Too much silence makes me nervous." They sent the pulse. 10 seconds later, the tower groaned. And then it screamed. The orb in Nyla's hand flared hot. She hissed and dropped it, just as the signal returned. Owen caught the waveform. His face went pale. "That's a Harrow trace." "They're scanning," Nyla said. "They know I'm not alone." "They'll come here?" Jace asked. "Eventually." Owen looked at them both. "Then we don't wait. We move now." Jace loaded what gear they could carry: thermal packs, microdrones, data slates. Nyla picked up the orb again. It still glowed, but now dimmer, slower. "It's listening to me," she said. "Even damaged, it remembers my voice." "Then we take it with us," Jace said. "It might be the only voice that matters." They left the cabin at dusk. Behind them, the signal tower began to whine again, long, low, like something had answered. But they didn't turn back. Because when the sky starts humming, the only direction worth going is forward. They traveled light and fast. By nightfall, they'd made it 50 miles north, far from Avalon, deeper into the forested corridor that once served as a defense shield line during the energy wars. The overgrowth had claimed the roads now, but Owen's antique map tablet guided them past drone nests and comms towers like it still remembered where all the bones were buried. Nyla moved with a quiet certainty, always 5 steps ahead, eyes scanning the treetops like she could smell satellites in the sky. Jace didn't ask questions anymore. He just followed. When they reached an old rail tunnel, overgrown and half-collapsed, Owen gave the signal to stop. "Checkpoint," he said. "We're close." Nyla crouched. "Close to what?" "Facility Echo 1, Owen replied. "Black site. Closed since the surface accord. But rumor says it still blinks." "You're saying it's active?" Jace asked. Owen's mouth twisted. "I'm saying it never really turned off." The tunnel led to a hatch buried beneath a hill. Jace pried it open with a magnetic ring, and they dropped one by one into stale air and darkness. Emergency lights flickered on, orange and dull. The place was old, steel corridors lined with broken panels, old Union logos half erased. But as they moved deeper, the dust thinned, and new footprints appeared. "Not theirs." "Someone's been here," Nyla said. "Or something," Owen murmured. They reached the central chamber, its doors still powered. Jace keyed in a code Owen handed him, 6 digits, a song lyric no one used anymore. The doors hissed. Inside, a room full of light. And not just white fluorescence. Pulsing green conduits. Floating data streams. A figure stood at the center, tall, slender, with skin that shimmered like oil and chrome. It turned. And smiled. "Krell," Nyla said, surprised. "You're still alive." The figure nodded. "Barely. When the Valari fell, I hid here. Waiting." "Waiting for what?" Jace asked. "For her," Krell said, nodding to Nyla. "The last voice of your kind. And the only one the Harrow fear." Krell moved aside, revealing a hologram, Earth, overlaid with pulse vectors. A bloom was forming near the equator. The Harrow's arrival pattern. "They're triangulating now," Krell said. 5 days, maybe less. Nyla stepped closer. "Can we scramble the pattern?" "With a pulse strong enough," Krell replied. "But you'd need a crystal. A live one." Jace frowned. "We have one." Krell looked intrigued. "Then we need to amplify it." "Can this facility do that?" "No," Krell said. But Site Delta can. Owen paled. That's 10 levels deep in Terabase. We'd need codes, bio-clearance, and a reason no one can argue with. Or, Nyla said softly, we go quiet. Jace nodded. Infiltration. Krell stepped forward. I'll come with you. Why? Owen asked. Because I remember how to rewrite their minds, Krell said. And you'll need that before this ends. They prepped in silence. Suits. Maps. Timelines. Jace took Nyla aside before lights out. You really trust Krell? No, she said. But he hasn't lied. That's rare in any species. He hesitated. What about me? She met his eyes. You didn't run. That makes you impossible to replace. That night, they slept in shifts. Because tomorrow, they'd walk into a base that wasn't supposed to exist. And ask it to believe in a war no one had declared. The Terra base was buried beneath a dead city, once a government stronghold, now just a sprawl of overgrown ruins and hollow towers. Rain slicked the broken pavement as their group approached under cloak field cover, blending into the shadows like ghosts that didn't want to haunt anything, just pass through. Krell moved like a specter, knowing exactly when to slow, when to stop, when to motion them forward. Jace watched his every move with suspicion. The alien spoke rarely now, as if words burned calories he couldn't afford to lose. They reached the access point beneath what had once been a subway terminal. A steel hatch, half concealed by rubble and decay, pulsed faintly with embedded biometric readers. Time to lie to the locks, Krell muttered. He pressed a thin black device against the reader, something like a coin, only it shimmered as though it breathed. A soft chime sounded. The door slid open. Inside, lightless corridors, chilled air, the sterile scent of a lab left running too long without supervision. But someone had been here recently. Lights responded. Cameras blinked. Security's adaptive, Owen said, frowning at the console. It's rewriting its own logs. Because it's not just guarding, Krell replied. It's listening. They reached the central chamber without alert, barely. A field of flickering hex panels formed the ceiling above what looked like a glass well, and suspended inside it, the amplification core. The room thrummed. Nyla approached slowly. The orb in her hand pulsed harder, resonating, sinking. She held her breath. It recognizes the crystal, she whispered. But it's asking for more. More what? Jace asked. Resonance, Krell said. Emotion. The amplifier was built for empathy-based calibration. It doesn't run on fuel, it runs on connection. Nyla turned toward Jace. It needs us. He stared at her. You mean? She nodded. Together. Jace stepped forward. The moment his fingers brushed hers, the air changed. Not louder, thicker. Like their heartbeats had become percussion beneath the quiet. The crystal rose from her palm. Hovered between them. Spun. Then. Flare. A pulse like light in water. The entire room lit up. The core glowed amber. The signal output jumped. They're going to hear that, Owen said, voice tight. They already have, Krell replied, pointing at the display. Drones. Swarming. Inbound. The team moved fast. Core output routed to a portable unit. Power cells detached and linked to a lightweight rig. The whole thing strapped to Nyla's back with a hissing lock. The glow didn't dim, it moved with her now. Then came the quake. Not seismic. Atmospheric. A ripple through reality, like the air lost traction for a second. Jace spun around. What was that? They've dropped cloaking, Krell said. Mother ships entered the upper stratosphere. Here? Owen asked. Now. Yes, Krell said. They're not circling anymore. They ran. But not before Nyla turned, just briefly, to the core. Thank you, she whispered. And the machine flickered, just once. As if it understood. They didn't stop running until the horizon cracked with heat. Above them, the Harrow mothership hovered like a moon torn loose from orbit, massive, silent, and wrong. It didn't descend. It simply unfolded, piece by piece, as if the sky had split open and grown mechanical teeth. Nyla dropped to one knee beside a broken stone pillar, catching her breath. The crystal pack on her back pulsed like a second heart, visible through her skin now. Her body shimmered faintly around its edges. You're burning, Jace said, crouching beside her. She shook her head. It's just resonance. It's louder now. Too loud. No. Just, insistent. Owen checked the readouts on his tablet. You've got maybe 30 minutes before that thing reaches full discharge capacity. After that, Earth's grid goes silent. Jace stood. We need a distraction. We need to split, Krell said. They'll be focused on the signal. If I peel off east, draw their drones, you might have a window. I don't like leaving anyone behind, Jace muttered. You won't, Krell replied. I'm already gone. He vanished into the tree line before anyone could argue. Owen sighed. Guy knows how to exit. Jace turned back to Nyla. We head for the city. Downtown still has pulse towers. If we can get the signal up, maybe we can scramble their command matrix. Nyla nodded. It's a long shot. He offered his hand. We're already falling. Might as well aim the landing. The city had changed since they'd left it. Windows cracked. Streets quiet. The hum of machines layered under the wind. The Harrow's influence was subtle, but spreading, turning angles sharper, reflections unnatural. It wasn't conquest. It was rewriting. They reached the old comm tower by twilight. Nyla placed her hand on the transmitter panel. It lit instantly. I can mask us for 7 minutes, she said. 7? Owen asked. Maybe 6. Jace and Owen worked quickly, rerouting power from a nearby junction, converting stored kinetic energy from the tower's old elevator core. As they worked, Nyla stood alone. Eyes closed. Hands open. She whispered. Not words. Tones. Soft, harmonic frequencies layered into the air like music the world forgot it knew. Jace looked up. She was glowing. He stepped toward her. Hey, he said. You okay? She opened her eyes. They're coming. How many? All of them. The sky cracked open. And then the drones fell. They didn't fall like machines. The Harrow drones came down like spores, spinning, graceful, and precise. They made no sound. Not at first. Just a growing pressure in the air, like the atmosphere itself was trying to flee. Jace stood in front of Nyla, weapon drawn, knowing full well it was useless. Beside him, Owen adjusted the frequency stabilizer, sweat streaking his weathered face. Signals at 72%, he said. But if we don't hit 90, it's noise, not music. Nyla didn't move. Didn't blink. The crystal behind her spine began to hum louder, threads of light dancing down her arms. They've locked onto me, she said. But they don't understand what I've become. Jace glanced over. And what's that? Untranslated. The drones surrounded them. 3 meters above ground. 30 in number. Their armor shimmered with the same wrong physics as the mothership. Each had a core like a dark eye pulsing at its center. Then, one spoke. But not with words. With resonance. The sound twisted in the air, not quite audible, but felt in the stomach, behind the teeth. A command. A demand. An order to surrender. Nyla answered by stepping forward. Just once. She extended her hands, palms up. And she sang. Not loudly. Not humanly. A tone, pure and constant, that bent the grass beneath her feet and sent tremors through the concrete. The drones shook. Their formations faltered. Their lights dimmed. One by one, they jerked backward as if pushed by invisible force. The signal tower behind them screamed to life. 95%. Owen shouted. We're in. Nyla turned to Jace. It's time. He stepped forward, took her hand without hesitation. The pulse that exploded outward was warm, not hot, like a memory set free. The drones froze. Then, shattered. Every unit in range crumbled into mist and falling light, disintegrating midair like dust blown from the pages of an ancient book. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was sacred. Nyla dropped to her knees. The crystal flared once more, then dimmed to a steady glow. Owen stared. That wasn't just power. No, Jace said. That was a choice. He looked down at her. And she looked up at him. I heard you, she whispered. In the chaos. You anchored me. He knelt beside her. And I'll keep doing it. However long it takes. She smiled. Then fainted in his arms. Above them, the Harrow ship shifted, its perimeter fracturing. The command matrix had been pierced. Their link, broken. They wouldn't be able to coordinate. Not without their hive. Jace stood, carrying her. Let's end this, he said. Owen nodded. They headed for the shore. Where the last fight waited. The shoreline was ghostly. Sand stretched out like pale ash, scattered with fragments of shattered drones. The Harrow mothership loomed offshore, part submerged, part risen like a living fortress, its hull pulsing with a sickly rhythm. Lights ran in patterns across its surface, forming symbols that weren't meant to be understood. It wasn't just metal. It was memory. And that memory had begun to fracture. Jace carried Nyla across the dunes. She was conscious again, just barely, whispering instructions as if dreaming through data. Owen followed, wheeling the last active signal coil and carrying a backup charge pack humming low against his side. The docking point's up there, Jace muttered, pointing toward a sloping tower that arced from the water like a broken tooth. Nyla stirred. The bridge listens. It needs contact. From you. From both of us. Jace took her hand. The bridge formed in response, plated segments rising from the surf, shaping themselves in perfect synchronization with their steps. Each motion matched their pulse, like the ship remembered who they were before it could reject what they brought. Owen stayed behind. Someone has to jam the relay if this goes south, he said. Don't worry. If anything explodes, I'll be the one screaming into the void. Jace smiled, then stepped forward with Nyla, ascending the bridge. Inside, the Harrow ship was alive. Walls shimmered with neural current. Veins of data ran along the ceiling. The air pulsed in time with a great unseen heart. Yet no resistance came. No drones. No defense. They're listening, Nyla whispered. Trying to understand the error. Jace squeezed her hand. You're the error. They reached the core. It looked like a sphere, floating, semi-liquid, black with streaks of light that swirled in slow arcs. The hive mind. The center of the command matrix. Can you speak to it? Jace asked. No, Nyla said. But we can resonate with it. He nodded. Then let's sing. They stepped forward. Together. The moment they touched the platform, the crystal pulsed. The air shifted. And the hive reacted. Suddenly the room was full of echoes, not sound, but thoughts. Memories. Screams. Repeats. Flashes of Nyla's homeworld. Cities dissolved. Oceans drained. Her people running. Then came Jace's memories. Childhood. Loss. The first time he saw her. Their connection wasn't just strong. It was truthful. The hive paused. Uncertain. The crystal flared white. And Nyla screamed. Not in pain. In declaration. The core cracked. A pulse erupted, not a wave, but a disassembly. Lights shorted. Patterns glitched. The hive began to collapse itself, breaking from the inside out. Outside, Owen watched the ship's surface begin to warp, fold inward. Like a flower unblooming in reverse. Inside, Jace pulled Nyla back. The platform fell away behind them. They ran, the ship falling apart beneath their feet, gravity realigning as the hive failed. Screams echoed, but they weren't human. They weren't even angry. Just confused. Seconds from the breach, the bridge reformed. Owen shouted over the rising wind, now. They dove. And the ship imploded silently behind them. No fire. No wreckage. Just dust. The Harrow were gone. And the world began again. The world didn't cheer right away. There were no parades. No instant broadcasts. No medals handed out on live streams. The Harrow were gone, yes, but what remained was a silence most people didn't understand how to process. The skies were still too quiet. Technology flickered back online in phases. Communications came in waves, confused, hesitant. Across cities and ruins alike, people emerged with wide eyes and questions no leader could answer. Some cried. Others prayed. Most simply looked up, as if waiting for the stars to fall again. But Avalon knew. The story leaked slowly, not through media, but through whispers. The alien woman with silver skin and eyes like memory. The cop who believed her. The ghost ship that crumbled into nothing without firing a single shot. And eventually, they came home. Nyla walked barefoot across the fields behind Owen's cabin. Her lavender skin had faded slightly, now tinged with a soft human warmth, as if Earth had painted her in gentler tones. The crystal remained dormant around her neck. No longer a weapon, now a keepsake. A reminder. Jace watched her from the porch, arms folded, eyes squinting in the late morning light. "You feel different," he said as she joined him. "I am," she replied. "I'm not just Valari anymore." He reached out, resting his palm gently on her stomach. "And not just one of you, either." She nodded. "He's strong. Even in sleep." Figured he would be. The child's heartbeat pulsed faintly through her skin, faster than human, but steady. Resonant. Owen stepped out, carrying a mug of something that steamed oddly blue. "He'll be born with memory," he said, sipping. "You two rewrote more than just code in that hive." Nyla smiled. "We rewrote each other." They stayed on that hill for hours, watching the sky. The earth hummed differently now. Subtle, but real. No more distortion in the magnetic fields. No lingering Harrow signatures. Just the long, slow breath of a planet relearning how to hope. Some said they saw ships in the upper clouds. Small ones, never lingering, just observing. Watching the place where one of their kind had stayed. The child would grow up with 2 languages. 2 bloodlines. 1 story. Of how love, not war, rewrote an invasion. Of how a pulse, shared by 2 hearts, became a signal the enemy couldn't compute. And how resonance, when chosen, can become more powerful than any weapon ever built. Not all battles are fought with guns. Some are fought with trust. With choices made in silence, with hands held when everything says to let go. Jace and Nyla weren't heroes in the traditional sense. They were broken people, mismatched, out of time, scarred by loss and fear. But that's the thing about broken people. They resonate deeper. And resonance reshapes the world. Their bond wasn't manufactured or prophesied. It was built, moment by moment, in the shadow of something terrible. And when the hero came, expecting to conquer another songless world, what they found instead was harmony. Imperfect, honest, defiant. Earth survived. Not because it had better weapons. But because it had something the hero had forgotten existed. Connection. Now, the child of two worlds prepares to open his eyes beneath a sky once filled with threats. And every step forward, from this moment on, isn't just survival. It's rebirth. So if this story lit something inside you, if it made you feel like maybe, just maybe, there's more to the stars than danger, then do something powerful. Tap the like button to send ripples across the algorithmic void. Share this with someone who still believes in bridges between worlds. And subscribe if you're ready for more stories that pulse with emotion, mystery, and the quiet rebellion of being human.